So what we're going to be building in this video is an NFT claim, but instead of claiming it by paying with crypto, we're going to be able to pay with credit card, and we're actually going to be utilizing Stripe to do this. So this NFT claim is actually a combination of Stripe plus Engine, which is a tool that we offer here at thirdweb, which is a backend HTTP server. So we can use things like webhooks and everything to trigger on-chain transactions. So this is a demo of what we're going to be building. We have our Stripe plus Engine here. We have a little login here, so you can sign in with our in-app wallet, which is social login, email, or phone number, or you can select a Web3 wallet. I'm just going to select my MetaMask wallet here. Once we're logged in, we can see that we have an image of our NFT here. We can buy with a credit card. So if we click that, it should open a payment element from Stripe here. You can see right over here. We can put in our card information. This is just a demo, so we'll put in the demo card here for Stripe. Just put in some information there, and then we'll hit pay now. You can see it's processing payment. Payment was complete. And then once payment is complete, it'll then mint us the NFT. So this is what we're going to be building in this tutorial. If you want to try this demo out, we actually do have a live demo that you can try out on our thirdweb templates page. So you can come to thirdweb.com/templates. You can look for the Fiat NFT Checkout. You can hit view the demo here, and it'll open up a live demo here that you can test out for yourself here. So same thing like the demo that I just showed. You'll fill out a payment screen here, pay now, and it'll claim you an NFT. Hey everyone, Sean Watasa here, back with another tutorial video. And in today's video, again, we're going to be building a Fiat NFT checkout. So the ability to purchase and claim an NFT, but instead of using crypto, we'll be able to use a credit card. And in this case, we are going to be using Stripe. We're also going to be combining this with our Engine tool, which is a backend HTTP server, which you can use to create on-chain transactions. And we'll actually be triggering this through Stripe's webhooks. An overview of what we're going to be covering in this tutorial video. We're first going to deploy ourselves an ERC-721 smart contract. That's going to be for our NFT. Then we'll jump into building out the actual front end of this. We'll implement Stripe's payment elements, and we'll also implement thirdweb's engine, and we'll trigger that based on a successful charge or payment from Stripe. So with all of that being said, let's jump on the computer here and let's deploy our smart contract first. So on thirdweb's dashboard here, I've connected my wallet. I'm going to go over to the contracts tab. We're going to deploy ourselves a contract first. So I'm going to hit deploy contract. And I'm going to select the NFT collection. So I'm going to come over to the NFTs area, and I'm going to select NFT collection right over here. And this is an ERC-721 smart contract, and I'm just going to hit deploy now. We're going to name this smart contract here. I'll just call this Stripe plus Engine. You can give it a symbol. I'm actually going to give this an image as well. So you can drag in whatever image you want to have your contract image be. We're actually going to pull that as the metadata of the NFT image that we show on our application. You can fill out the description and everything, fill out all the other contract parameters. But at the very bottom here, you're going to see network and chain. And in this dropdown, you can select the network or chain you want to deploy your smart contract to. Now, we support any EVM compatible blockchain. This includes mainnets, testnets. You can just search the blockchain name or chain ID. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to use base Sepolia here. So I'm just going to click that, switch my network over. And there you go. I have base Sepolia testnet selected, and I'm going to choose deploy now. We'll get a transaction window that pops up here. We just need to confirm that. That's to deploy our contract. Then we'll get a signature request here that we need to sign. This is going to add it to our thirdweb dashboard. There you go. Now we have our contract set. I'm just going to save this on the side. We are going to have to configure it a little bit once we start building out our application. But for now, this is all we need to do. We just need to have deployed our smart contract that we can interact with. So now with that deployed, we can build out our front-end application. So I'm going to open up my terminal here. And in my terminal, we're going to create a new Next.js project. So I'm going to say create new Next app. And I'm going to say NFT Fiat app. And this is just going to be our Stripe and Engine app here. And I'm going to say yes to TypeScript, no to ESLint, no to Tailwind, yes to source directory, yes to app router, and no to customizing the import alias. So we'll let that create our project here. Once our project is created, we're going to have to install a few things. The first thing we're going to install here is going to be the thirdweb SDK. So let me just change into my NFT Fiat app. And we're going to install thirdweb's Connect SDK first. Now we support npm, yarn, pnpm, or bun. So however you want to install it, you can follow the documentations. I'm just going to run yarn add thirdweb here. Once that is done, we're going to install Stripe as well. So I'm going to say yarn add Stripe. And we also need to install Stripe's React and Stripe.js here. So we take a look here, we're going to be using the React Stripe.js here. So you can follow these setups here. We just need to install that into our project as well. So I'm just going to copy this here, come back to my terminal, paste that in, and install that. All right, and now that we have all of those installed, let's open this up in our code editor. And now what we're going to do is set up and configure the thirdweb Connect SDK. So coming into the source folder and in the app folder, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call this client.ts and we're going to set up our thirdweb client. So in our client.ts file, we are going to create a variable for our client ID, which we are going to store in our .env file. So we're going to say process.env next public client ID. And we're actually going to get our client ID right now. So in my file directory here, I'm going to create a new .env file. And I'm going to come over back to my thirdweb dashboard. And I'm going to open up the settings. And in your settings, you'll have your API keys. So you can create a new API key here if you don't already have one. We'll drop a link down in the description below to a video and guide on how to create your API keys and a little bit more in depth about the services and everything you can enable. But I'm just going to copy my client ID right here. Come back to my .env file, and we're going to make sure we set that to the next public client ID. Save that, and there we go. So now that we have our client ID, let's export a variable here called our client, and we are going to create a thirdweb client here, and we're going to make sure we import this from thirdweb. And for our create thirdweb client, we just need to provide it our client ID, which is going to be our client ID up here, which we're going to make sure we say is as a string. And there you go. We now have our client ID or our client to use the Connect SDK. So now that we have our client set, we're also going to define the chain that our application is going to be. Folder here. This one is going to be called our chain.ts file. And in my chain.ts file, I'm going to export a variable here, and we're going to call this chain, and we're going to use the define chain here from thirdweb, and we just need to provide it the chain that we want to define here. Now we can provide this with a predefined chain. We do have some popular chains predefined already with thirdweb's Connect SDK, which I am using. So I'm using base Sepolia, which we can get from thirdweb/chains. And we can just add base Sepolia here, or you can add in the chain ID. So if it's not a predefined chain in the Connect SDK, you can just provide the chain ID right over here, and that works as well. So now that we have our client and chain set, we can wrap our application here with the thirdweb provider, which is what we're going to need to do in order to start using the Connect SDK. So I'm going to create another file in the app folder. We're going to call this our thirdweb.ts file. And in here, I am just going to export the thirdweb provider here, and this is going to export from thirdweb/React. And the reason we are doing this is because I'm using app router, so I want to make sure that I tag this here with use client, and we're going to wrap our app here with this thirdweb provider. So coming back to my files, I'm going to head over to the layout.tsx page, and I'm going to wrap the children here of our application with the thirdweb provider. So here we are going to say thirdweb provider, and we are going to wrap the children here in here. Now we do want to make sure up here that thirdweb provider, we're not importing it from thirdweb React here, but from our thirdweb.ts file. So we're going to go @/app/thirdweb. And now if I run this locally here on my device, so we'll run yarn dev, I should be brought up with the Next.js template here. So we'll wait till that loads. There you go. So we know our application is working. We've configured our Connect SDK, and we have the Next.js template loaded here. So now that we have all of that set, we're going to come back to our code editor here. Let me close that terminal out. And we're going to create a way for a user to connect their wallet to our application. Because again, we need a wallet to be connected so we know where to send the NFT to. So coming back to my files here, I'm going to go over to the page.tsx file. And this is the template code here from Next.js. We're just going to remove all that template code. So remove all that. I'm just going to give it a pair of empty divs here. And then what we want to do is we only want to show the actual Fiat checkout with Stripe only if there is a wallet connected. And to check if there is a wallet connected, we can actually use the use active account hook from thirdweb. So if we use create a variable here, we'll call this account, and we're going to use the active account hook here. And what the active account here hook is going to do is again return us the information of the connected account. And if there is no account connected, it is going to return us undefined. So we can say only if there is an account, should we return our application here. Sorry, we'll say if there is no account, then we'll display our login page here. So let's say if, and then if there is an account, this is where we'll return our app, right? So there is no account, we need to prep them with a way to connect a wallet. And in this case, we are going to use the connect embed component. So let me create a pair of divs here first. Let me give this some styling. And then we are going to give this a header here. And we're just going to call this page here Stripe plus engine. So if I come back to my app, we use active account. Oh, let's tag this here. We make sure we're using use client. There we go. So there you go. We have our Stripe plus engine here. And then we want to create a way for us to connect our wallet. So if we look at our demo here, I disconnect, we're going to add a connect embed, which is this connect modal right over here. And we'll prompt different ways that our users can connect their wallet. So we're going to add that in. And all we need to do to add that in is just add the connect embed UI component. And we need to provide this with our client, which we can get our client from our client.ts file. And we can provide it with the chain from our chain.ts file. And just like that, just adding that component there, we come back and we now have a way for our user to connect a wallet. So if we connect a wallet here, we should be brought with nothing because again, we didn't create anything here. When there is an account, we have an empty div here. So let's create something here where we can display our connected button component. So let's just grab some styling here for this div. Let's add a div within this. We'll give that some styling. And then within that, we're going to add not the connect embed, but we're going to add the connect button. And what this will show is actually the connected state of the connect button. So it won't show the button to actually connect it. It'll just give them the connected wallet information and the ability to disconnect their wallet. So if we add that and give it the client and provide it the chain here, we'll save this and then come back here to our app. And there you go. We now have a connected component. So this is going to, again, give us the connected information of our wallet. If we disconnect, it brings us back to our connect embed modal. And then when we do connect, it'll show this. And then this is where we're going to build out our application. So now that we have a way of connecting and disconnecting a wallet from our application, let's start interacting with the contract and setting up the fiat payment. First thing we need to do is get our contract. So we're going to come to our files here and we're going to create a new folder. We're going to call this utils, and in the utils folder, I'm going to create a contracts.ts file. Now in this contracts.ts file, I'm going to create a variable here that is going to hold our NFT contract address. Now we're going to store this contract address in our .env file as well. So next public NFT contract address as a string. And what we'll do from here is then export a variable here called our contract. And we're going to use the get contract from the Connect SDK. And we need to provide this with a few things. The first thing is the client, which again, we can get from the client.ts file. The chain that we deployed our contract to. In this case, we can use it from our chain.ts file. And then the address of the contract, which is going to be the NFT contract address that we store up here. So I'm going to take this variable here. We're going to go back to our .env file and we're going to get our contract address. So if I come back to the contract that I deployed, I'm going to copy the contract address and paste that in there. So now the next thing we want to do is display the image of the contract here. So this contract image from our contract, and we want to display it in our app so the user has an idea of what they are going to be minting. So let's come back over here. Let's come back to our page.tsx file and let's get that contract metadata. So we can get the contract metadata by using the useReadContract hook from the Connect SDK, which is going to allow us to read any read function from the smart contract. So we're going to create a variable here. In return, we get back some data, and we can name this data our contract metadata. And again, we're going to use the useReadContract here. Now, useReadContract, we can manually call any method from the smart contract, but because we deployed a pre-built contract from a thirdweb, we do have some extensions or pre-built functions that we can call that will call those functions from the smart contract itself. So in here, we're going to use the get contract metadata, and we're going to import this from import get contract metadata from thirdweb /extensions and this get contract metadata, even though we did deploy an ERC-721, it's actually going to be part of the common extensions here because this is something that is common between different standards of contracts. So we're going to say /common, and what we need to provide the get contract metadata is going to be the contract that we are getting the metadata for, which is going to be our contract from our contract.ts file. And that is going to give us back information from the description, title, and image of our contract that we deployed and specified. So down here under our connect button, we'll say if we have our contract metadata, then let's display the image of our contract here. So I'm going to create a div here and give this div some styling. And within that, we're going to display the image. Now we can use another component from the Connect SDK called the media renderer. This one we can provide with an IPFS hash, which is what we're going to get returned from the contract metadata. And this will render out the image for us. So we're going to say media renderer. We're going to set the client here to our client and then set the source for our image to the contract metadata.image. That's going to grab the image from there. And then we can just give it some styling of some border radius here just to make it look a little prettier. And right over here, you can see that is the contract image there. We added some border radius. And again, this is grabbing it from the actual contract using the useReadContract hook. So we have the displaying of information all set in our application. Now we have to create the Stripe payment. And in order to create a Stripe payment, we're going to need to set up a few things. So coming back to my code editor here. We're going to create a state variable here, and this state variable is going to be the client secret, and we're going to set the client secret here. We're going to use state. Let's import that. We'll set it to default to just a blank string here, and this client secret is going to be what is created from Stripe when we create a payment intent. So we're going to need that right there. We're also going to now set up Stripe here. Now we do need to get a Stripe publishable key, and we're going to store that in our .env file as well. But what we'll create here is if we don't have that Stripe publishable key, we're just going to throw an error here saying, did you forget to add it to your .env file? And then we're going to create an instance of our Stripe here, which we are going to say load Stripe. And load Stripe, we are going to import from Stripe.js. So we're going to say import load Stripe from Stripe.js. And load Stripe, we are going to provide it with our publishable key here. And then we'll say as a string. And that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to copy that. We're going to come back to our .env file, and we're going to add in our Stripe publishable key. So you can come and sign in to your Stripe account, and you can head over to the developers tab, and you're going to come over to API keys, and you can create a new publishable key here. You can just copy that. That's what we're going to paste into our .env file. So I'm going to do that right now. And there you go. We have that set. So what we want to do is we want to, if there is no client secret, we want to show the button that says pay with fiat or whatever we want the button to say. And then once a user clicks that, we should create a client secret. It should then generate them the payment form to enter in their credit card information. So under the, where is it? Under the metadata here, we're going to say if there is no client secret, then we are going to display a button. And if there is a client secret, then we're going to show the payment form here. So in the client secret here, if there is none, we are again going to show a button. That button is going to say, we'll just say buy with credit card. And we'll just give this button some styling here. So there you go. Come back to our app here. You can see we see a button now that says buy with credit card. It doesn't do anything yet, but we're going to work on that in a bit. Again, once a user clicks this buy with credit card, it should load, should create a client secret for them and then load the Stripe payment form. So before we create the button for that, let's create our Stripe payment form here. We'll just create a component here. We'll call this our credit card form. And this is where we'll create the Stripe form here. Now we're going to need to get the elements by using use elements from Stripe. So up top, we'll make sure we import use elements from React Stripe.js here. And then coming back down here, we also need to say Stripe, and we're going to get use Stripe. And then we're going to create some state variables. One for is loading. We'll set that to false. And then one for is completed. So what we'll do in here is then create the payment form. And we're going to use the payment element from the React Stripe.js here. And then we just need to create a button here. And this button is the actual confirmation payment button once the user puts in all their credit card information. So say button here, and then depending on our status, so we'll say if is complete, then we'll show that payment was complete. If not, if it is loading, we'll show loading, or we'll show actually, we'll just say payment processing. And then if not, then we're just going to have it say pay now. So depending on which state our payment is going through, we'll just show some information there on our button. And then we are going to give this button here some styling. And we'll also disable this button if we are in the loading process is completed, or if we don't have Stripe or elements loaded here. So we'll save that, and then back up here when we have our, once we do get our client secret, we are going to say elements here. We're going to set elements, we're going to set the options, and we're going to set our client secret to the client secret, and we'll set the appearance here to, in my case, I'm going to use the night theme. So we'll say theme and night, and then we'll set Stripe here to Stripe, which we loaded up here at the top. And then within the elements here, we are going to add our payment form, so our credit card form. So now that we have that set up, we need to create our payment intents and everything with Stripe. And then once we create our payment intents, we're going to check that the credit card payment goes through, create a webhook to then mint the NFT. So first we need to create our Stripe intent. So coming back to our files here in my app folder, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to say, oh, not file, new folder. We're going to call this API. And in there, we're going to create another folder. This is going to be our Stripe intent. And then within that Stripe intent folder, I'm going to create a route.ts file. So this is where we're going to create our payment intent from Stripe. We first need to get our Stripe secret key here. So we're going to say our Stripe secret key. We're going to get that from our .env file. Again, you can get your secret key from your Stripe dashboard here. You'll just reveal your secret key and then you'll get it in right over there. I'm going to add mine in. You can do yours. And then I want to come back to our intent. All right, so I added in my Stripe secret key. Now let's export an async function here, which is going to be a post. We're going to require a request here, and that is going to be of type request. And for this function here, we are going to check if first, if we don't have our Stripe secret key, then we'll just throw an error saying Stripe secret key was not found. We are going to get a wallet address from our request. We're going to include that in our request so that we can pass that metadata on to our webhook and then mint the NFT to that wallet address. So we're going to say this is going to be our buyer wallet address. And we're going to get this from our, we're going to await that from our request.json. And we'll say if there is no buyer wallet address, then we'll just throw an error again here saying that the buyer wallet address was not found. Then we'll create a new Stripe here. So we'll say new Stripe, and we're going to import the Stripe here from Stripe. We're going to say import Stripe here, not from here, from Stripe. And our new Stripe here is going to take our Stripe secret as a string. We're going to say here that the API version is going to equal whatever the recent API version is. Now, as I'm making this video, it's 2024-04-10, but depending on when you are watching this video, it may differ. So you can just add the most recent API version in there. Then we're going to create our payment intent, which is going to await Stripe.payment intents, and we're going to create a payment intent here. So we need to add the amount. So this is the amount of what we are going to be charging. So you can add whatever amount you want. I'll just say here $10. The currency that this is going to be in, for this example, I'm going to say USD. The description here, we'll just say this is an example NFT delivered with thirdweb engine. We'll say payment method types. We'll give this an array and we'll just say card, but you can accept what other payment types you want here. And then in the metadata, so this is the metadata that we're going to provide with the transaction. We are going to provide the buyer's wallet address, and that way we can pass that metadata on to the webhook when we need to mint the NFT to the user. And then finally, we're going to say return. We're going to return a next response, and then we'll say .json, and we're going to give back the client secret, and this is going to be our payment intent .client secret. And then again, that client secret is what's going to be used to set the payment form. So now coming back to our page.tsx file, coming back up to the top here, under where we loaded Stripe, we're going to create our onClick function for our button. So we're going to say const, and then we're going to say onClick. This is going to equal an async function. And we're going to get our response back from our Stripe payment intent. So we're going to say await, fetch, and we are going to fetch from our /API/Stripe intent. And with this, we are going to provide the method here, which was going to be a post method. We're going to provide the headers here, which is just going to be content type application JSON. And then we're going to provide the body, which we are going to then provide the address or the wallet address of the connected account to the buyer's wallet address, which I just noticed I spelled wrong here. Did I spell it wrong? Yeah, buyer's wallet address. There we go. And then fix that there. So in the body here, we're going to say json.stringify, and we're going to provide this, the buyer's wallet address. And we can get the wallet address from the account that we got from the use active account. .address will give us the wallet address of the connected wallet. Then we'll check if our response is okay. Then we're going to get our JSON here, which is going to equal awaiting our response.json. And then we are going to set the client secret to the json.client secret. And then with that, we'll come back down to our button here, our first button, which is the pay with credit card button. And we will then set the onClick to our onClick function. And then we'll say that this button is also going to be disabled if there is no account or wallet connected to our application. So coming back to our app here, if I now hit buy with credit card, you can see it loads the payment form here. We can put in our card information and then we can hit pay now. Now we need to set up the actual function here that is going to get called when we hit pay now, which is going to check to make sure our payment goes through. Once the payment does go through, it'll then call the claim or mint function from engine to mint the NFT to the buyer's wallet address. But we do know that this here creates the payment intent. So now we just need to create the actual processing of the payment and setting up the webhooks right over here. So first, let's create the actual payment here. Let's say in our credit card form, we're going to create a function here for this one, which is going to be an onClick function. It's going to be an async function here. And we're going to first check, make sure that we have Stripe and our elements. So if there is no Stripe or elements, we are just going to return out of the function. What we're going to do then is set the loading to true. We'll then run a try catch here. In the catch, we'll just alert that there was an error processing your payment. And then in the try here, we're going to confirm our payment. So we're going to, in here, get back our payment intent and our error. And we're going to, await stripe.confirm payment. And for the confirm payment here, we're going to provide it our elements. And then we're going to say confirm params are going to be our return URL, which we will set to our local host. I'm running this on 3001. You'll just put in the URL here of wherever you are going to be running your application. And then we are also going to say redirect, and then that is going to be if required. And we'll say if there is an error, then we'll throw the error.message. But if our payment status equals succeeded, then we are going to set is complete to true. And then we'll also just alert that our payment was complete. And this is just going to, again, check to see if our payment goes through. So we'll set this here to our on click on our button. And then we'll come back here to our application. Let me just refresh this really quick. So there we go. If we hit buy with credit card, it should open us up our payment form. We'll just put in our dummy card here. And then once I hit pay now, it'll say processing payment, and then it should say payment complete. This is for development testing. So if the payment goes through, it's going to say payment complete. And there you go. Payment was complete and we purchased our NFT. But what we're going to have to set up here is a webhook to listen to see if the purchase is completed. Then we need to, again, use Engine to mint that person an NFT and send it to their wallet address. So let's create that now. So let's create that webhook in our API folder. I'm going to create a new folder and we're going to call this stripe.webhook. And then in that folder, we're going to create a new file called route.ts. So in this one, we're going to use Stripe's webhooks to listen for that confirmed payment. And then we're going to use, again, thirdweb's engine to mint the NFT. So we'll first get Stripe here, and we'll say this is a new Stripe from Stripe. We're going to provide it with our secret key again. So say process.env.stripe secret key as a string. And then we're going to provide it with, again, the API version, which, again, yours may differ depending on when you're watching this video. We're also going to get all the variables that we need for Engine and for Stripe's webhooks here. So we're going to need a webhook secret from Stripe. We're going to need our Engine URL, our Engine access token. We're also going to need the contract address from our .env file. We'll need the backend wallet address for our engine here, and then we'll need the chain ID that we have deployed our contracts to. Then we're going to say export async function. We'll call this post. This is going to be require a request here, which is going to be of next request. And first, we're going to check to make sure that we have our Stripe webhook secret. If we don't, we'll throw an error here. Then we're going to get our body from our request here. And we're going to say await our request.text. And then we're also going to get the signature here from our headers.get. And then we're going to get our Stripe signature. Then if we don't get our signature back, we'll say no signature was provided. Then we're going to get back our event here, which we are going to use stripe.webhooks.construct event. Then we'll provide it our body, our signature, and our webhook secret. Then what we'll do is we'll do a switch here for the event type. And what we're going to do is look to see if we can find that the payment or the charge was successful. And if it was, then we should then call the mint function from engine to mint the NFT. So in here, the case is going to be we're looking for charge dot succeeded, and we are going to await. And what we'll do down here is we'll then create the function that we are going to execute once a charge is successful, which is going to be our function to mint the NFT. So we're going to say, call this handle our charge succeeded. It is going to take in our event, which is going to be a Stripe charge. And this one, we are going to, again, call our engine and mint the NFT if it is successful. So we need to make sure that we have all our variables here for engine. If we don't have that, we're just going to throw that it is misconfigured, and we need to go and change that in our .env file. We're going to get the buyer wallet address that is going to be provided within that metadata. So we're going to say we're going to call this charge here, not event. So charge.metadata. So whatever our charge that's provided here, within that metadata, we should have provided the buyer's wallet address. If there is no buyer's wallet address, we'll just throw an error saying no buyer's wallet address was provided. And then we'll run a try catch here. And the catch here will just say console error, the error. But in the try, we're going to then call our request to engine to mint the NFT. So we'll say here, our transaction, we are going to fetch, and we're going to get our endpoint here. So if we look at engine, so let me come to my engine dashboard here. So coming back to the thirdweb dashboard, heading to engine, if we go to my instance of engine here and we go to the Explorer tab, we're going to be calling a function for an ERC-721, and we're going to be calling a post request for minting2. So let me find mint2 right over here. So this is our endpoint here. It's going to be our thirdweb engine URL /contract/chain, the contract address ERC-721 /mint2. So in here, we are going to provide our engine URL /contract /the chain ID. So depending what chain ID we provide in our environment variable, then our contract address /ERC-721 /mint2. And this here, the method is going to be a post method. The headers here, we're going to say content type application /JSON authorization. We're going to provide it the bearer and then our engine access token. And then we also have to provide it our x-backend-wallet address, which is going to be our backend wallet address that we provide. And then the body for our request here is going to be JSON.stringify. And we're going to provide it, and we can take a look and I'll show you what we do need to provide it. So over here, we need to provide it the receiver and then the metadata of the NFT. So we'll just copy this demo one here that's provided. So the receiver here, this is actually going to be the buyer's wallet address. The metadata, you can provide it the name, the description, and the IPFS hash here for the image. We're just using the thirdweb demo example image here, but you can provide your own IPFS here of whatever image you want to attach to the NFT. So once we get that transaction, we'll say if the transaction is not okay, we'll throw an error saying failed to mint. And that will be our function here to call if a charge is successful. So coming back here up top in our switch here, for the case that charge is successful, we are going to await and we're going to handle the charge succeeded. We're going to provide it the event.data.object as a Stripe charge. And then once it goes through all our event types, we'll just break out of here. And then we'll say return next response.json with the message of success, and we'll save that. And again, that is going to be us listening for our webhooks here. So again, we're going to set up our webhooks to listen to see once we have a charge successful, we're going to then call our handle charge succeeded here, and then that is going to mint the NFT to the buyer's wallet address. So now what we need to do is set up all our environment variables here. So we need to set up our engine URL. We need to set up our webhook secret, which we're going to go over really quick on how to get that. We're also going to set up our access token, our contract address, which we already do have, our backend wallet address, and our chain ID. So I'm going to go over the engine stuff and tell you where you can find everything for engine. If you don't already have an instance of engine, you can create your own instance here. So if you come back to the engine tab, you can create an instance here of engine. If you do want us to create a managed version or instance for you, it does cost $99 a month. You can do this completely for free though if you do want to host and manage your own instance of engine, or you can do it completely for free if you just want to test this out locally. You can spin up your own instance of engine locally on your device. We'll drop a link down in the description below on how you can do that if you just want to play around and try it out. But again, you can do that right here. So using your local engine, you're going to have your engine hosted on your local host here. That will be your engine URL. If you already have an instance here, like our demo instance here, I can just take this URL right over here. We'll leave out the backslash at the end though, and then we'll copy that as our engine URL. For your access token, you can come over here to your access tokens and you can create a new access token here. You'll be given that access token, and then that is going to be your engine access token. You're only given it once, so if you do lose it, you just need to delete your old access token, create a new one. Then you need to also have a backend wallet. So how engine works is we have a backend wallet attached to your engine instance, and when we make a call to engine, we say, hey, this backend wallet, go ahead and execute this transaction on chain for us. So you can see right over here, this is my backend wallet, and you do need to load it up with some funds because engine again is doing all the execution on behalf of your user. Now, if you're doing this Stripe payment method, you can, of course, forward the cost of the gas to your user. But in order for engine to actually execute the transaction, you are going to need some gas filled in that backend wallet here. So you can create a new backend wallet, deposit some funds into it, and that's going to be your backend wallet that executes the transaction. And then you already have your contract address, the chain ID. It's just going to be whatever chain ID of the chain that you deployed to. So you'll just put that in. I'm going to fill all of that out and then I'll come right back. All right, so I added in all my environment variables except for the webhook secret, and I'm going to be testing this locally. So we're going to create our webhook secret here. What we need to do is open up our terminal. Let me just exit out and clear this really quick. And what we're going to run is our Stripe listen forward to, and then we're going to put in where we have our Stripe webhook. Now, I don't have this on localhost 3000 for this one. This one is actually going to be on 3001. So I'm going to say my localhost 3001/API/Stripe webhook, which is where we had our webhook listening to. So we're going to run that there. And what that is going to do is, because we're just testing this here, is going to create our Stripe webhook secret, which is right here, which is what I'm going to copy and then use as my webhook secret. So I'm going to put that in first. And now that we have all of that set, we can test this out and we should be able to put a successful payment through, and then Stripe would then, and then using Stripe's webhooks, we'll see that a payment was successful, and then we should then call engine to mint that NFT for us. So what I'm going to do here is open up my engine here, which you'll see here. We have some test transactions going on that have already been mined. And I'm going to pull up my contract here, which will then be able to see our NFTs. Now, the one thing that we need to do is actually set up the permissions here on our contract, because we need to give permission for our backend wallet to actually be able to mint these NFTs. So I'm going to copy my backend wallet here. And coming to the permissions tab here on the left-hand side, under the minter/creator, I'm going to paste in my backend wallet and add that in as a wallet that has the permission to mint new NFTs. So we're going to update that permission here on our contract. We'll confirm that transaction. And there you go. So we'll come back here to our NFTs. We'll watch that. And then we'll also watch our transactions here as our payments go through. So coming back to my app here, let's refresh this. We'll have our Stripe and engine here. Again, let's actually sign out. So users brought to our Connect embed where they can connect their wallet. We'll just select our MetaMask wallet here. And then an image of our contract metadata. I'll hit buy with credit card. it'll open up our payment form here. We'll put in our dummy card number here, put in a date. And then what we'll do here is hit pay now. So you'll see here payment was complete. And if we take a look at our terminal here, you'll see that our payments here, you can see our intent was created, our charge was updated. And what we can then do is if we come back to our transactions here, you can see this top transaction was 13 seconds ago, and that was the NFT that we just minted using our engine. If I come back to my contract here, and let's just open this up a bit, and we refresh that. You'll see here, this is the one NFT that we minted to the wallet address. So we can take a look at this a little bit more in real time here. Let's say, come here, let's refresh this. Let's try this one more time. We'll buy this NFT. We'll put in our card information. We'll hit pay now. Payment went through. We'll come back here. You'll see that our transaction on engine went through. It's queued up. It's now sending the transaction on chain, and it should mine that transaction just within a few seconds here. And then once that is mined, if we come back to our contract page here and we refresh, we should now have our 2 NFTs that were purchased. So there you have it. We built our very own NFT checkout where you can check out and purchase an NFT using fiat or credit card. And how we did this was in combination with Stripe and our thirdweb engine. So again, if you folks enjoyed this video and you found some value in it, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on more tutorial videos just like this. If you need any help or support, you can open up a support ticket. We'll drop a link down in the description below, and our support team will be happy to help you out and answer any of your questions. But again, I hope you folks enjoyed this video, and until next time, see ya.